Let's be honest, almost anyone can lose weight. We've all seen the pictures, maybe we've even been there ourselves. But here's the thing, losing the weight, that's just the first step. The real challenge, the thing that separates success from a temporary victory, is keeping it off for good.
So that brings us to the big question we're tackling today. Does the path you take to lose the weight actually matter in the long run? Does your starting strategy make it easier, or maybe even harder, to maintain that loss down the road? Now, to figure this out, we're not just going to talk about theories. We're diving deep into the data from the National Weight Control Registry. This is a massive, ongoing study that looks at literally thousands of people who have actually done it. They've lost at least 30 pounds and, crucially, kept it off for at least a year. We're looking at what really works for real people. What the researchers found is that these successful people generally fell into three very different groups based on how they first lost the weight. Let's break down who they are. First, you've got the independents. These are the folks who did it all by themselves. No program, no plan, just figuring it out on their own. Next up, the programmers. These are the people who turn to structured commercial programs, like Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, for that guidance and support. And last, we have the formula followers. This group used very specific, often medically supervised programs that relied on things like liquid formula diets. So, right off the bat, we have three completely different approaches to getting started.
Okay, so three different paths. But here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't just their methods that were different. The people themselves, their situations, their motivations, they were very different from the get-go.
Just take a look at this. The formula followers, on average, started at a much higher body mass index, a BMI of 40, which is well into the obese range. And you can see they were also way more likely to have a medical diagnosis, with a medical issue being the trigger to lose weight in the first place. For many of them, this was a path of necessity, not just preference.
But now for what I think is the most fascinating question the researchers asked them. It was simple, but the answer reveals everything. Which part was harder for you? Losing the weight or keeping it off?
And wow, the results were a perfect mirror image. Look at this graph. The on-own group, the white bar, they clearly said losing the weight was the hardest part. But look at the liquid formula group. It's completely flipped. For them, maintaining the loss, that's the black bar, was by far the bigger struggle.
And this really gets to the heart of it. For the independents, the struggle was the learning process, the trial and error of finding what worked. But for the formula followers, who had a simple, prescribed plan to lose the weight, the real challenge started the moment they had to make their own food choices.
So as you can probably guess, these totally different experiences led to very different habits and strategies when it came to the day-to-day grind of keeping the weight off.
The independents really leaned into self-monitoring. They weighed themselves more, and they did more intense exercise like running and lifting weights. Meanwhile, the other two groups tended to rely more on the dietary rules they learned, like counting calories, limiting fat, and often staying involved in a program for support.
Okay, so we've seen a ton of differences, right? Different people, different paths, different struggles, different strategies. You'd think their playbooks for success would be completely separate, but they're not.
Because when you strip away all the noise, the data is crystal clear. Every single successful person in this registry, no matter which group they belonged to, shared two universal, non-negotiable habits. Number one, they all ate a low-calorie diet. The average intake was just under 1,400 calories a day. It didn't matter how you lost the weight. To keep it off, you had to control your calories. Simple as that. And that low-calorie diet was also consistently a low-fat diet. Across the board, less than a quarter of their daily calories came from fat. The fundamental nutritional strategy was the same for everyone.
And the second pillar of success? A whole lot of physical activity. On average, they burned about 2,800 calories through exercise every single week. To put that in perspective, that's like taking a brisk 1-hour walk every single day. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? What does all this data really mean for us?
Well, it's this. The road you take to lose the weight is way less important than your commitment to the habits you need to maintain it. Any of these paths can get you to your destination, but you have to adopt the same core lifestyle, low-calorie diet, high physical activity, to actually stay there.
But there is one final really powerful idea in this study, and it's summed up perfectly in this quote from the researchers. They suggested that the very struggle the independents went through, the hard work of learning on their own, might have actually been their biggest advantage.
It forced those behaviors to become second nature, to become routine, which made them easier to stick with for good.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. Is there a hidden benefit to the struggle? Does figuring it all out for yourself, without a perfect roadmap, actually build stronger, more automatic habits that can last a lifetime? Definitely some food for thought.